Hey Addy and Snips, welcome to this video, and ultimately anybody who happens to be watching it, I am going to post this video to my YouTube channel just in case it happens to help somebody else. I figured there's no secrets or anything to hide with TB, so there's no reason not to just share this openly with anybody who's interested. I think anything that we kind of go through in this video and this time will be beneficial to anybody, especially who may be new to running a TB, or to any guild officers who are looking to take their TB to the next level. This will have very beneficial information. I'm going to do my best to keep this as short as possible. I do get long-winded. I'm going to try to stick to things to be efficient. I've got everything written out over to my side here so I can see and know what's going on, what my talking points are going to be. Sadly, I suck at video editing. Otherwise, there would be some nice graphics here with chapters and titles and things like that. But I'm going to make sure to go into the bottom in the description and put timestamps so that way everything can be separated out by what it is we're talking about and what you need, so that way if there's something specific you want to refer back to later, you can just go straight to that timestamp and go find it. So in today's video, we're going to cover how to use Hotutils and what all is in Hotutils for TB. We're going to talk about the planning tool that I utilize. There are many out there. You may not like this one. You can certainly go and find different ones. There are several out there. I just found this one to be very easy to use in my opinion, and it reads very well to me. So it's one I've used since day one. And so we'll talk about how to use that and whatnot. I sadly don't know who originated this. Actually, I do know. And I guess I can give credit to them when we get to that section, and that credit will also be down in the description box as well, because I was not the originator of this planning tool. Now, after we talk through the planning tool, we will talk about Discord bots, variations of Discord bots, and things like that, of other things that I use within the actual Discord server. And then finally, we will talk about other resources that exist out there, other ways to get information about TB. And then finally, and this won't be useful to any other officers, but for our guild specifically, we'll talk about what my current future plans were, kind of where I was expecting to go and what the thoughts were there. But that's going to be ultimately up to you guys. You are the new officers running this. It is your choice, your decision. You're going to make the calls. I just want to give you as much information as I wish I had before stepping into this role, because I didn't get any of this and I had to figure it all out myself. So first, we're going to jump up into Hotutils. Hotutils being the most important thing, the foundation basically, that is going to enable us to do all of the planning, everything, and execute the way we do. Specifically, of course, we're going to be looking at the TB section. Status doesn't matter. Players doesn't matter. The only three things we will ever use is going to be planning, command, and manage. They're ultimately the only three that we will use, and we will start off by going into the planning section. So you can use this for any of the different TBs in the game. Obviously, the only one we have, realistically, I don't even know what these other templates are. The only one we should have templates for, and the only one that matters, is Rise of the Empire. Now, you'll see we have several different templates, each one named day 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6. And you can name them anything you want. We have a couple test ones. I believe this is Andra's and this one's mine. But you can completely delete these, create your own, do whatever you'd like. I highly recommend whatever you use for the main ones for the different phases, you name them clearly, because as you'll see later when we get to talking about the bot that sends out orders and operations, if you don't know which one is for which phase, that could get kind of tricky. So I recommend just keeping the naming simple. So basically from here, we hop in. If you click view, you can take a look at everything that I already have planned for day 1. Now, I believe Addy, you've already got in here. Snips, I hope you have as well. But basically, this will list out at the top. You select whatever planet you want for each of the different alignments, and if you have any bonus planets for that phase, it'll show you all the possible operations for there. And then these are all of our assignments. So before every single TB starts, either the day before or shortly before it actually does, please make sure you go in here and verify this is completely filled out. If you can't do it for all 6 phases, at a minimum do day 1 and then come back and do the other ones later. Because the worst thing would be you send out orders, you start it, and then you find out 3 hours in that you're missing several of these because we got a new player in and nobody ever got assigned those operations and your new guy can't cover them. So if you make sure that these are all assigned in the first place, people press the automatic place operations button, it should go smooth and perfect every time. So with each phase here, you'll see we have, for the first 2, it's everything completely filled in. There's nothing unique about them. The first 2 phases should look the exact same every single time for you guys. Phase 3 on is where things will start looking different. And you'll see here, we have some reds, we have some blanks. And so the first thing I want to draw your attention to is there's one that just says assign player, and there's one that says no longer in guild and then a name. So the key here is anyone who is just assigned player, those were purposefully left by me to not be assigned. That's because in this particular phase, Dathomir, we are preloading. Therefore, we don't want all operations to get filled, even though if we were to click assign a player, yes, we could go assign someone. We are purposefully holding that one back. So this is the kind of thing right here, the no longer in guild, that you're going to be looking for before every single TB starts. You want to get in here and look for any of these, and you want to make sure that they get assigned. That way your orders stay the same. The same units are getting assigned every time. You're not worrying about people who you're not worrying about possibly changing your future orders or other things like that. You're just simply going to keep things the exact same. So the way I like to assign it personally is I filter by other units assigned, and I look for those with the lowest amount of units. In this case right now, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to slap Ulgrich and save. Go to the next one. We got Lord Vader. Now, Lord Vader being a GL makes this more tricky. One of the only rules I have with assigning operations is I try my best to ensure only one GL gets taken from every single player. So right now, Ulgrich only had the General Grievous. That's easy. I can just assign it to him. Phase 3 and Phase 4 are the most difficult for us because Phase 3 and Phase 4 are the most difficult for us because that's where we need the most GLs. I think in one of them we need 47, the other one we need like 43 or 44. So nearly every single person in the guild has to set a GL. It should be 1 per person. We all have large rosters. There's no reason people shouldn't be able to fill the GLs. So again, I'm just going to come in here. Connor has 0, save the assignment, and keep working through. So I'm just simply going to go in. Now, Near is in a special situation, so we're going to keep him at 0. And instead, I'm just going to hit Connor again, Tusken Raider. I don't give it a lot of thought. Now, see here, neither of them has Tusken Raider at R7. My next lowest is either Chavunk or Here's Jerry. So, Jerry, thank you for your contributions. And there we go. So now, Dathomir is completely fixed. That's exactly what we want to see. And we'll come on down to the next planet. And basically this is just all you're doing on repeat, just simply filling in all of these units. Like I said, I don't put a lot of thought into this. I just want to simply make sure the GLs are the only ones where I spend any time trying to think it through. It's kind of easy in this situation. One thing you'll see sometimes in the past, people have suggested, why don't I go replace their operations before we know they're leaving the guild, like if they're retiring or whatever the case may be. But I don't like doing that in the event because if A, I miss something, or B, it becomes very easy because they just stand out right here once they're removed. So it's very easy for me to just go 1-for-1 match exactly who needs to be replaced. So with that, because we had to leave, there should be... my apologies. We had 3 leave, but only 2 new come in. So we do have 1 offset GL down here that we'll have to replace. So, but this is really all it is just going in, signing, saving, then moving on. Now, once you've done that, you still need to hit save plan before you leave this page. It'll say guild setting updated. Cool. Now, if we go back in, we still see it saved exactly how I left it. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. You don't need to see that on repeat over and over again. All I want to do is show you the gist of how to do it. Now, one thing with this, in the old days, we used to send out notifications to people with a list of all their platoons and what not to do. We stopped doing that because it has manual officer intervention that has to do it every single time. It takes extra time, and Hotutils is trying to get rid of it. If you really want to know how to do it, it's just this button up here, send Discord DMs. You leave all of that as no. You change this to whatever time you want, and you just hit save and send. Easy as that. It'll send notifications to everyone. That's how you send out the orders via DM. It's not hard, but Hotutils is wanting to get rid of it, so I highly recommend not doing it. It's just one more alarm or one more thing you have to pay attention to. So these testing ones down here, actually, let's just go a little bit further here, see some different things. So you can see when we go to complete a preloaded planet, I only have one assigned. Personally, you'll notice it's all me. I really like to ensure that the orders for a pre-filled planet are filled by myself or the TB officer in charge, because I know at the very beginning of a phase, I'm going to set the orders for the phase. I'm going to place my ops immediately. If I'm the only one assigned to that planet, then that means all the ops are instantly completed. Everything keeps moving forward, and we are set. You don't have to wait for somebody to come along later to fill things in. So as best as you can, if you keep it to yourself, then you will have planets filled up a heck of a lot quicker. So we will notice down here, we get our second bonus planet, because actually back in phase 3, Zepho was the first time we had one. And you'll notice with Zepho, we're not filling everything, and that's because we're doing it over stages. There's certain units like Clone Sergeant we just don't have enough of, so we have to spread it out over time. Same with Farm Boy Luke. And then you'll notice down here for Mandalore, there's a lot of just assigned players that are not the no longer in guild. And that's because Mandalore, we're filling it over 3 phases. We don't need to have it filled until phase 6. And there's some key people in here like Dr. Afra, Marin, that have special missions or regular missions that they have to wait, or that it's better for us to wait before we drop those into this bonus zone. For example, right here, we can see that we're working on Dathomir, and we have Mandalore open. Well, on Dathomir, there's a special mission for Marin, and there is a regular combat mission that requires Dr. Afra. So in this case here, we would be better not to deploy either of these operations, simply so we can maximize our points up here on Dathomir. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking. There are some kids outside, it looks like, that he sees, and he is just having a field day. Okay, so we'll talk about the testing ones here. So the testing ones are free to basically do whatever you want with. My biggest recommendation is every now and then, delete them. Hotutils has an interesting bug that occasionally happens where it will assign, let's see, for example, you see how there's 2 Malguses here? I've seen it where it will assign the same player to both of these Malguses. It shouldn't, but it does occasionally. So if you delete the template out here, delete and then create a new one, which we'll just go ahead and do just to show for how to do it, then it should work just fine. So I deleted it. I'm going to create new template, call it whatever you want, testing JRL, and save. Now, this is what it would look like if you're taking over TB and you from somebody who doesn't have everything pre-filled in, or if you just want to start from scratch. This is what every single one of these squares, every single one of these plans would look like. So you go in and you choose whatever planet you want to work on. Let's say we're working towards a Sector 9 or a Sector 5 planet. Then you choose the planet, and you can either manually go through like we've shown to start selecting units, or you can just click Assign Players. Now there's different ways that it will auto try to assign players, and you can also tell it which players you don't want assigned for certain things. But generally speaking, there's no need for any of that specificity. I just click Go and let it fill it all in. You can see here, there's not a single operation on Malachor that we can complete at the moment. But so this would tell you, this is how I get the lists for creating the different operations that we need. So right here, I would go through and I would say, okay, we need a Boba Fett, we need a First Order, so on, so forth, fill it in. The key being, if I know we're going to do Malachor over 2 phases, well, this Boba Fett, Scion of Django, could cover this one the next phase. This one could cover this one. So reality, we only need 2 more, because there's only 3 left, that we would need to be able to cover it. So that's kind of how you have to think. Think in a 3-dimensional way. Remember, it's not just we need what's on screen, but rather things do take multiple phases sometimes, and that's how you would need or to kind of think things through in order to fill these in. So especially if you're starting from scratch, it can be very tricky, but it's really not too bad once you kind of get the hang of it. Now, so that is everything for the planning section. Add-in snips, this is yours to do with as you want. I highly recommend you create a testing one to play around with and do different things. But go take charge of this, make it yours. You can see for our day 6, it should be finishing everything up. And you see again here, this is mostly myself, but I'm not capable of doing this many. So I have a lot of them, but not all of them. And therefore, the only other people who do are fellow officers to ensure, again, that they can get it done quickly. Because that is who, generally speaking, is going to be your fastest people. So that's everything for the planning section. I can't think of anything else that is or needs to be included in there. So we'll hop on down to the command section. Now the command section, this is what sets our orders in game. So we always want to use, again, the one for ROTE. And within here, you'll see we have multiple days for all the phases of TB. And for each day, you assign different planets that we will have open. For each planet under Dathomir, you have the zone itself. So this is what would be highlighted on the planet. You have the operations, and then you have all the various combat missions. This is where you can go in and you can change anything that we have in here. So for example, right now I have it set to ignore Dathomir because on this phase we are focusing on Kessel. So Kessel gets the focus first. The other ones should all say close. So if we look, that one says ignore, Lethal says ignore, Zepho says ignore, so on, so forth. You get the idea here. You can go in and preset all of the commands. This can be very daunting at first. Thankfully, again, you're not running anything brand new for us. If you are a brand new TB officer and you're taking over, it is a lot of work to go through this the first time. So while you're doing this, simply set whatever the message is you want on the planet, whatever you want the status of that mission or planet to be, and you do it for every single mission for every single planet. So as you can see, this is where I've done it for everything through all of the phases. So if there's anything you see in game that you want to update, say I want it to stop earlier or do that, you can come preset that in here. Now you don't have to do that only from here. You can do this, all these changes in game as well. But this is how, when you run the bot at the start of a phase, this is where it's pulling from to get the data to push into the game. So this will make your life a lot easier. This is how messages and orders get set so quickly. I am not manually typing all of this out every time. That would be atrocious. I just simply have it all pre-typed in here. Again, a lot of TB is all the work you do in advance. It's the setup, it's the build that you do. If you set things up in advance well, you do your homework, you're going to have a smooth TB. If you don't do your homework and you're rushing to do everything at the last second, it's going to be rough. Things are going to get missed, and that's how you have mistakes. Do your homework in advance and get yourself ready. Command is pretty simple. There's not much else to it. You change everything, set it to whatever you want, and then simply set all the orders the way you want. So lastly, the last section here in Hotutils that we're going to look at is the manage section. Now, while this is loading, I'm going to take a sip of water here. Okay. So this one, it says you're viewing actual TB data up at the top. This is our current round. This is what we are currently showing in game. This is all of our current information that we have. So this, if you needed to check something like, hey, we're on phase 4 and you wanted to see if insert player name did something on phase 3, this is a good way to check it. I personally prefer doing that in the game. But what's really helpful here is you got a history. So you can go back and view previous historical data on TBs for the last several months. This is extremely handy because then you don't have to constantly keep records of everything. The only thing that is not included in here is special missions. You have special attempts, but you don't have special successes. So you can't see who passed or failed, and you can't necessarily see, like, for example, if Eastward Cobra had a special attempt here and didn't try, I don't know if that he did or didn't. This doesn't tell me anything other than they did not attempt. That doesn't tell me if they could or they didn't. It just simply says they did not. So you've got right here under the player summary, shows all the players in the guild, their total territory points, how many platoons they had and filled, how many combat waves they had, basically all the data you could want to know. So this is a great way that you could go and see, okay, here's this JRL schmuck who for phase 1 barely participated. Looks like he did a couple of, he only did 5 combat attempts. He got 6 waves total for 5 combat attempts. That's pretty terrible. And that was it. But it looks like for the rest of TB, if we were to scroll through, he did pretty well. That's some high numbers all the way across it. So this is how you can go and see when people aren't doing certain phases or they're consistently missing, because you can see where they deployed. Did they actually deploy GP or not? So in this case, obviously for us as our guild, me being the territory battles officer, I hold GP until the end of a phase. Phase 1, we always have more than enough GP, so there was nothing for me to deploy. But if you see somebody who consistently misses phase 1 every time, or certain phases or whatever, this is how you would see it. So you can even go back here. You can view data's each round, each phase of the TB to get you an idea of what happened. So we could see here, if we look back, we would see that on Dathomir, we ended up getting to 61 million GP of that first star. So we were able to 3-star these other planets and then get to 61 on there. I think technically this is going to show short, which is odd, but we did get 3 stars on both of those. So, but either way, and yeah, I don't use these rounds here. I've never liked them. There are things you can do with mission predictions and planning and other things. I don't use any of this for that. Namely, the 2 things that I pull out of here are the under the player summary, if I want to go look at somebody specific and see how they did what they did, or the next thing I use is the mission summary. So this mission summary will show the guild as a whole and how we did on certain missions, planets, other things. So for example, if I wanted to see on the Jabba mission on Tatooine, Jabba the Hutt, Sector 3, that's Tatooine, we can see that we had 40 attempts, 80% of the possible attempts, because we should have 50 attempts there, and we got a success rate of 100. Now, technically, this 80% is not quite accurate to what our guild can do, because if we were to take a look over at our guild, we would see we only have 48 Jabbas. So operating you could go and dig more, but operating under the assumption we have 48 Relic 7 Jabas, then realistically we should have 47 attempts right here. Because that is a mission that you can run full auto basic, you only need Jabba. So that is 7 times however many points per attempt on this one. Millions of points that we would be missing that we could improve upon. So this is kind of how I look at some of this stuff to see where we're having inefficiencies, how we can improve, what mission specifically we can do better on. But also what I do is I will come in here and I'll hit the minus or the plus button on every single one of these. And I wish I would have pre-done this so I could have just had the data ready to go. But you're going to use this data to help you fill out our next tool. So this is basically all of the data, or this is all of the stuff that I really use regularly out of Hotutils. And so now that we have covered everything under the Hotutils umbrella, we can kind of jump to the next topic. And that is, how did I come up with these plans? How did I get to, well, we're going to do these planets on this phase and these planets on this phase? Where does the math come in for all of this? And so I use a calculator that I'm going to share here in just a second that actually takes and makes the math a lot easier for us because it pulls these numbers that I'm expanding out right now and runs calculations based on the inputs that I give it of what we could do and how and what we could achieve. So almost done here. Perfect. Okay. Once I have expanded everything, I'm just going to go down, copy, and we're going to hop over here to our TB calculator test. Now, this is by SoloH4n of LEE. I don't know this person. I found this on Reddit a long time ago, like a year and a half ago now at this point, and they have, I don't think they're even still updating this table or this page anymore, but it has been, as it is, it works perfectly for what I use it for, and it has been extremely handy. So the copy I'm going to give you guys, and that's going to be in the description box for the video, is going to be this template, and it actually has way more. You can use it for every single type of TB out there, so depending upon whichever one you're working, there is a table for you. Now for us, we are going to be using a one that only has ROTE on it because ROTE is all we're doing. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this final table here, and if there is anything in it, I'm going to delete everything. Can't delete. Sweet. Apparently, there we go. Okay, once it's all deleted, I'm going to paste values only. All I want is these basic data values. I don't want anything else or formatting to come into this. And all this is all of the math that we just pulled, all of our data right here from Hotutils from our last TB performance. So I'm going to come over here to the ROTE TB tab, and I'm going to click this button up at the top that says Load Hotutils Table. It's going to run the script. It's going to pull the numbers. Hopefully it says data loaded properly. If it does not say data loaded properly, I don't know what to tell you because I've never had that happen. I would say just refresh the page and hope it works. So you can now, any blue fields you see on here are fields you need to fill in. You are responsible for filling in any of the blue fields. And so we'll start with number of members in our guild, 50. Size, 625 currently. Technically, we're at 49, but, you know, it doesn't really make too much of a difference there. Especially when you tell it how many millions in GP we have. So I always run with the average deploy participation being 95%. We are always going to have somebody miss. planning an entire TB around 100% participation for every phase is not realistic. You are likely going to have 1 to 2 miss, and you're likely going to have a couple of phases where 1 or 2 miss, and other phases where people are excellent. If your guild has a lot of people missing all the time, that's a big problem. You're going to want to start replacing people as fast as possible to get active players in, because it takes all of 2 seconds to, at a bare minimum, click the word deploy. So I always run with a 95%. The preload safety million, I always do 1 million as the safety just here in the bot, simply because I don't mind walking it up to be literally 1 point away from the preload. But that's because I trust our guild. We have great officers who know what they're doing. But for the calculator purposes, I just say 1 million as the safety. I mean, that's more than close enough. And then preload platoons, we always try to do 14 in those platoons. But again, doesn't matter. I'm not truly sure what this average character / ship GP means. I think it's more applicable personally to the other TBs and not so much this, where there actually is splits between ships and characters. We don't have that. So I've left it at 65 and 35 and never messed around with changing it. So my recommendations would just be leave it. But if you know exactly what it means, by all means, make the changes. So once we have the general info taken care of, there is a legend here that kind of helps you know what to do. Green, don't touch. That's where the calculator's driving it. And the orange, I've never seen filled in, but I wouldn't worry about it. So over here, planets info, this is the operations that we have and how many we can fill in. So in one phase, how many of the 6 operations on this planet could you fill in? So for the medical station for us, I do believe we could technically do all 6 in one time, but I'm just going to say 3 and then 6 on phase 2 and 3. Just for simplicity's sake. I know for Kessel we can do all 6 in the first one because that's what we do currently. And Lothal, I know we can do all 6 in one, but we're going to say over 2 phases, or we're going to say over 2 phases at the moment. Actually, no, we'll just change that to 6. Malachor, we can't do any. We likely could do 1 or 2. Based on what we saw earlier, but it's not going to matter because I'm not going to direct us that way. Vandor, we know we can do all 6 in at least over 2 phases, so I'm going to do 3 and 6. And you'll notice here, this is when we start getting these gray boxes. That's because when you hit these Sector 5 and Sector 6 planets, you have no choice but to complete it in 2 or 1 phases. You don't get the luxury of doing it over multiple phases anymore because TB's over. So as we get all of this filled in, we can't do any, all good there. Zepho, technically we can do in 6, and Mandalore we could do in 2. So there we go, whole thing filled in. That'll help the calculator figure out how fast or how many times you need to sit on a planet to do something. You can go and calculate and figure out your exact efficiency with combat missions. I don't find this number to be too impactful. It does obviously change what it's going to say. I did this, I think, when I very first created this bot, and I have been very, very, as you can see, cautious, low with the numbers, trying to just play things on the safer side, taking over the math from somebody who literally just did whatever they wanted to. And didn't understand the math. It was better off to play things on the cautious side, especially until you fill things out. Again, down here, this is going to pull from, what does this pull from? Character guild inventory. I believe this pulls data from where? I don't remember where this section pulls data from, but it's not very important. Again, orange, fill to overwrite estimator. Okay, so this you can manually fill in. So I could go and say, okay, Lord Vader's at R5. Well, we have 44 in the guild, so I should update this to 44, and so on. I don't think that this is too impactful. Obviously, the more time and more effort you put into this, the more you're going to get very good specific returns. If you have never done a TB before, I highly, highly, highly recommend you spend more time figuring all this out, getting this as accurate as possible, so you can get a more accurate answer on what your guild is going to be capable of. After you've done it several times, you're going to have a better idea. You're going to know the information pretty well. It's kind of like an art form. As you're going through a TB, you're going to see things, know things, what's kind of going to happen. And it just kind of becomes more of like, I know we could if X, whatever the situation is. So you can go and put in as many additional things as you want. You could fill in everything here for efficiency, attempts, blah, 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 and really get this nailed down. But I personally have not done that in a very long time, and our guild has done pretty dang good for TB. I think the biggest thing that I am very proud of, having ran this TB for this long, because it was pretty much from here on, almost the entire graph there, is it only went up. Not a single time did we ever go down from the previous one. We have only ever gone up or maintained the number of stars that we have gotten. So that's a badge of honor that I'm very proud of this guild and the team that helps run this all. So anyways, back to kind of what we were talking about, getting off topic. This Strategy Explorer. Right now, with everything the way we have it configured, there's only 108 possible strats that could be run out of 50,000. So basically here, you're going to tell it what's the minimum phases you want to spend on one planet, what's the maximum phases you want to spend on one planet. If you're not sure, you could put 0, because 0 simply is going to mean, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. The only reason a 0 would be bad is if it's in max phases. It means it absolutely will not choose to go to that planet. So no matter what strategy it's going to generate, we know we will not go spend any time on Malachor or the Death Star or any of those final planets. Technically, you could tell it that you want to go to Death Star, and you could force it to be a 1. But if you do that, notice it's now a red because we can't get there at the current way. So now you would have to say, I want 1 there. Well, now you're going to have 1 there, and now you have to have 1 there. We're all green, and it would figure out, okay, there's 54 plans that get you to the Death Star. Is it going to be a good plan? No, it's not going to be the most efficient plan. I can promise you that. But technically, you could go to the Death Star if you really, really wanted to. So the important thing here is that you don't over-constrain yourself. You don't want to really restrict it in, but you also don't want to leave it too open to where it is not going to give you enough strategies to look through or to find something that really makes sense. So for example here, one thing that hasn't been updated, because if you notice here, this is for 38 stars. We're at 41, so this hasn't been updated in a minute, because I kind of figured out our current plan using some napkin math, to be quite honest. But Zepho, we want open for 4 phases, and we want to complete it in 4. Mandalore, we want open for 3 and for 3. And that's because we're purposely delaying those planets all the way till the end. I will say that is a common strategy amongst large guilds. There is a time and a place for doing it sooner. We found a lot of good results completing it earlier. So if your guild did recently unlock those and you want to complete them sooner, by all means, there's a good reason to delay them so you can keep working on other planets, but there's also good reason to simply put them off and come back to them at the very end. So when we've put in these constraints and we have told it exactly how we kind of expect to go through a TB, then what it's going to do is, and actually here, I'm going to change this to 1, and that's going to be a 1, because right now we want Kessel done in 1 phase, and so that way we keep things moving. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so now that it's done that, you saw it loading up over here. It was trying to calculate how to and what to do on the next thing. These are the plans. It literally generated, what is that, 6 different plans that we could possibly do. And I think here, yep, total strat 6. So there's only 6 that would apply, and it's always going to list your best one up top first. So this, according to this calculator, the best of things we can do is 39 stars. This is part of why my last one was done on some napkin math, because I knew that I could beat this calculator. Again, the calculator has 95%. It has certain safety things built into it to ensure that I'm not getting carried away. You're always better to run a safe bet first, figure out we had too much GP, where reallocate it, and then improve later on, than to be overly aggressive, miss stars. So what we would do is take this ID 7659-43 7649-43 and hit load. Now you'll notice at the front there's a little apostrophe. It's very tiny. It may not even show up on your screen, but you need that apostrophe up there if you're typing in a dash number. And everything we will do will have a dash number, because the dash means the bonus planets. The 4 is how many phases we're doing Zepho, and the 3 is how many phases we're doing Mandalore. So we're doing it over 4, we're doing it over 3, and I typed in the number wrong, 7659, not 49. Numbers are hard. So glad you could come to my math lesson. So this little pretty graphic down here will show you exactly how we would theoretically walk through a TB. Now, we get 41 stars. It thinks we can only get 39. And you see the difference here is it doesn't think we're capable of doing 9 stars yet on day 2. Quite frankly, we aren't. And the only reason we do is we have some incredible, amazing members who really knock out of the park all of the combat missions every time. And we have a very good track record so far of getting good deploys on phase 2. 615 was our magic number for trying it, and we barely hit that. That took perfect participation. Now at 625, we technically can afford to miss one person not deploying, but that's not ideal, because then that keeps that margin very close. So that's where it's missing 1, so that would put us at 40. And then again, it's got a short on the back end, because it doesn't know or realize how much we are capable of doing combat missions on some of these later planets as well. Especially doesn't help when you're telling it you're doing it at 24 and 0%. Either way, the bot here gets you, generically speaking, the plan. And you can see here, each phase is color-coded. So red is phase 1, yellow is phase 2, light blue is phase 3. So if we look at light blue phase 3, we're completing middle and light side, preloading dark side. And then on phase 4, we finish the rest of that planet, as well as another one. And so if you look down here in this table, you can see the actual detailed breakdowns of the math. So let's say, for example, phase 4, we're going to finish dark side and bring it up to 339 million. We're going to complete the mixed planet, which is this one right here, to 500 million. But we're also going to preload to the light side 97, Zepho 89, and Mandalore 48. You can't see that color on the light side because we're doing it over 3 phases. It's only showing you phases 4 and 5, but technically you do want to pay attention. There is a preload there of 97 million. So this is where, when you see in my plans that I have in Discord or in my orders that I set in game and I say preload goal of 97 million, this is where it's coming from. This is what is informing me of what we should be shooting for, because I know if we hit 97 million here, the rest of this plan should go and continue as planned. If we are short 97 million here, we are only going to continue to be short the further we go into the phases. So dark green phase 5, all the preloads that we do, and then phase 6, knocking it out. So the big difference here is, if you notice, the light side, it wants, and I wonder if you notice here on the light side, it's doing it for Lethal. It's doing it over 3 phases. Lethal here, here, and here. We don't technically do it that way. We do it in 2. So if I go over here to this table and I say Lethal, I want to complete in 2, well then it's going to give me a red one because I have to open Ring of Kafrene. It doesn't mean I have to do anything to it, but it is going to show that. Now notice it actually took us down a star. It doesn't think we're capable of completing Lethal here in 2 phases in this plan. Because we can complete it in 2 phases in this plan, that is what enables us to get that last star. So it's things like that. Like the first time that we ran this plan, and I think we ended up with 39 stars, if I'm not mistaken, was it actually, I know for a fact because we jumped from 39 to 41, was simply because the napkin math showed that this was going to be extremely tight to do in 2 phases to get Lethal done. And in doing so, it ended up we had more than enough GP to over preload other things, and that's what led to us getting to 41. So again, play it safe the first time, then come back and figure out where you could reallocate some of that wasted GP. Wasted GP is not good. That means we should be finding a way to start preloading it towards another planet. That means you need to start completing a planet earlier in an earlier phase. Even if it's not the phase right before it, it might even be 2 phases earlier you need to finish a planet. Somewhere in the plan, if you have wasted GP, you need to be finishing a planet earlier so you can start opening more stuff up earlier for more preloads. So that is the TB calculator in a nutshell. That is everything that is used for it. The only other thing I want to talk about in sheets here, and this is how I do it. You guys are more than welcome to keep utilizing this sheets. I'm not going to take it down, but you are going to have to figure out how you want to do things going forward. But obviously the operation sheet is something that I have managed, and this is what I have created. You are more than welcome to do it your own way. The last TB guy just simply dropped a list every now and then randomly in the Discord. I thought that was horrible. There was no way to consistently go look and see what people were working on or what was available. You had to wait on him to go update the list and make sure it was up to date and that he caught everything. Since we all share it, everyone can see the changes and things. It's a lot less risk of something being duplicated. So those are the 2 Excel Google Sheets that I use. The plan, I think, is going to be fun for you guys to go around and play around in. Now, you'll see I have 2. There's a guild view and then a testing one. The testing one is where I just go around and play around with stuff. And then the guild view one is where I was going and updating whatever the strategy ID was that we were running, and I would place it right here so that way if anybody in the guild wanted to view this, they could, so they could see that, hey, we weren't being crazy, we came up with the math and actually worked through it. This is how we're getting to these answers. So that's everything with the planning tool. I don't think there's anything else with that to share. So with that, we're going to swap over to the Discord bots. And I'm sure it's one of you guys pinging me here at TB Dork. That's real nice, Ghost. I hope you know you're famous now. Caught in 4K. So the TB bots that I want to kind of go over, I'm going to go up here to the officer's channel and my channel, and I'm just going to kind of run through them in here. So basically I want to kind of share some of the bots that are helpful for keeping track of TB, different ones I use that will kind of give you some insight and information as we go. Pause for another water break real quick. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is Wookiebot. And you can see here, the Wookie, to be ready. This one is amazing for checking specifically special missions or unique missions. This will show you a list of everyone who is ready. So let's say, for example, we want to see everyone who is eligible to complete the SAW Rebel Fighters special mission. We're going to choose that one and hit enter. And the Wookiebot will start thinking, and it's going to pull up and generate a list of everyone in our guild who is eligible or not eligible for that special mission and where they are at in terms of becoming eligible. Another thing you can do with the Wookiebot is to go in, let's see here, Wookiebot, and if we go to you can check special missions on a guild basis. You can check special missions on a individual player basis. You can check all kinds of different TB things within here. I recommend just randomly running different ones to figure out which one to find useful or find interesting. This is what it will come back with, and so we see this gigantic table because the rebel one is just so huge with so many different possible rebels. But you see all these people are 100% ready to go, so that means, according to this, we have 26 eligible to attempt, 24 not. Of the 24, you can see 97, 95, 93, 90, so many people who are extremely close. It looks like they're primarily, Saw is the only required one at R7, and it looks like they're just missing Saw, because I guarantee you they can go find and pull some other relic fighters, rebel fighters, for other things. So you can see when somebody's really far away, close, and extremely close. This is very helpful for just on the fly. I used this one multiple times at TB, especially as we were building up to be ready for like the Jedi Knight Cal mission or the Bo-Katan unlock mission, unlock Mandalore. I would go and spam this before each of those phases to find out how many people we had eligible for a run. Now that we have 49 Jedi Knight Cal Kestis people ready, then I don't have to worry about that as much. And same with Bo, because we're up to 40, which is just awesome. So the Wookiebot is great for that, and will give you kind of realistically special mission specific. Now, the C3PO, as you'll see here, we have started using, and I'll come actually down into the rooms where we're doing it at, TB History and Performance, and I need to create a brand new one for this week's, which is going to be dated April 13th to the 19th. 4/13/26 to 4/19. Okay. And so within here, what we'll have is the TB special mission ran by the C3PO bot. And it'll pop up and it'll say, this will temporarily log you out. Are you sure? You would click yes. And it'll load. And then show you a list of all the different special missions. So for example, if we wanted to see on the Corellia special mission, because that's the only one that is currently accessible to people here in Phase 1, it's going to pull a chart and it's going to show, hey, who has not completed it, who has completed it successfully, and who has failed. This has been extremely helpful for tracking. As you can see, we started using it about a month ago to basically record who's failing missions, who's beating them, and the missing ones are the key, who are not attempting the missions. Because if you are repeatedly not attempting missions, then that's somebody that we need to get onto, because as you see, a common problem we have here is there are nearly always a couple of missing people. So missing people is just free rewards that people are not getting. Seeing this many missing people is very sad to see. Right now, though, because I ran this and it's not even halfway through the phase, there's obviously a lot of missing people. So I'm going to delete that message because that would not be accurate. But over time, we can compile a list of numbers of who has completed or missed. The only problem with the C3PO bot, you have to run it while TB is active. There is no record phase or review phase or anything like that. So when TB ends on Sunday, it's over, it's done. The day the event is up, you can't pull this bot anymore and check anything. So typically I've been running this bot when I go to the phase change, and then on Sunday, right before the TB ends, you would want to come in here and update this to pull the last couple of bots. So that is everything with the C3PO bot and how we use that. And then finally, we will talk about, since we're down here, the TB commands tool. Now, obviously, you guys are familiar with how to use it for your platoons and everything else. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use it to set it up and how to kind of administer and view things. So the settings here, like I said, within Hotutils, if you name your days on your plans very clearly, then you can match to which round. This makes it very simple. You can choose any of them, including the testing ones, and this is how you tie it to whatever round or whatever day you want to do it on. So once you've got those settings set up and you've got your drop downs good, you can dismiss the messages and it should pull and save that right there. Now, the show command center messages, that's going to pull straight from the commands in Hotutils. There's no settings or anything with that. It just pulls straight from there. Now, some of the buttons that you guys probably have not seen is the show deployments, missions, platoons, or not that you may not have seen it, but rather that you have not explored it or utilized it, especially from a TB officer perspective. So we're going to update this. Anytime you want to see accurate, up-to-date info, you must click update. The clicking of update, especially at the phase change, gets really annoying as an officer, because if I come back here to click something and somebody else has clicked update and it disappears on me, that's very annoying. But when it's later in a phase or something and you're running to check deployments or missions, you need to click update so you don't ping people who have already done something. So as of 30 seconds ago, it's now updated. So if I was to check show deployments, this is going to show me everyone who has not deployed yet in the guild. So every time when we are getting towards the end of the phase and we want to see, okay, we're going to send tags out to everybody who needs to go deploy, I would just update, show deployment, and then hit tag players in TB chat. Obviously not going to do that right now because it's a little early for that, but this is the list of everyone who still needs to deploy. If I click show missions, it's going to show a list and a table of the player, how many combat missions that they are eligible to complete. You'll notice that it's different. Some players can do all 14, some can only do 12 or 11, and how many special missions they're eligible to do. If they're eligible to do it, it'll show a 1. If they can't, it'll be a 0. So this will show you everyone who is incomplete, and then you'll have a section of complete players. So, for example, my alt can't do diddly. He's already 0-0, so he just needs to deploy and he's finished. The rest of these guys have done every combat mission they could and their special missions and are finished when it comes to missions. If you wanted to, for example, especially on later planets when we want to tag people to complete special missions, then you would come here and you would click tag whatever the special mission is. And it'll have it listed out by however many there are. Highly recommend not just tagging incomplete special missions, because that sends a very generic message of, hey, you have incomplete special missions, go complete it. But that player may not know exactly which mission it was they didn't do. If you tag it by the actual special mission, then it's very specific to which one they need to do. Finally, show platoons. This is going to show every one of all the platoons. Now, before something has been completed, we will see, okay, you can see who is still missing. You could potentially see something that says something like was placed by this person but was meant to be placed by another person. That's how you can see errors, and it will actually be red. Actually, here we go. Placed by extinctions instead of pre-mortal. So extinctions place that. However, we are past the 6-hour mark, and Ghost was obviously in the officer planning getting people to cover down, so this was likely a acceptable placement, and likely not a misplacement. So All of these, we still need to get the final operations filled in. When they're full, they'll just say full. It's the first couple phases are very easy to see this. It gets very complicated on the ones that are filled up over multiple phases, because they will have a bunch of was not meant to be placed. All of it will be red and it will be very confused. That's okay, because it wasn't supposed to be filled this round. The bot just doesn't know how to handle multiple phases. So don't be alarmed when you open it and you see a lot of red. So that's everything with the TB commands room here. As a reminder, when we start a TB, you want to delete this message right here. You can type it in here, you can type it in anywhere, but you're just simply going to type TB start, and that's going to start a tracked TB. Now, specifically, if you ever wanted to change this room and move it to a different channel or something like this, I think you want to do it, is it identify? I'm not sure. It's been a minute. I know how to get to the references, and I will be showing that shortly, of how to figure out how to move these things and where to get additional information. That's going to be our next section here shortly. But finally, the last bot I want to talk about in relation to the TB commands bot is the Hotbot. So the Hotbot has a lot of different things that you can do, particularly a lot of what I use it for is realistically the TB special missions, and it should pull us a report. What's really nice is this is the best way to get information or data on previous special missions that people have not done. So right now you can see, okay, here's all the special missions that people haven't done this phase. That's okay, we're still early. But if I wanted to do TB special missions, I wanted TB special history, and then select it by, let's say, Zepho unlock. Sadly, this is limited to like very, very either within ROTE, it's only Riva, Zepho, or Bo-Katan Mandalore, so you're not going to be able to use it for the other ones. But it shows us nice list of, for the last 8 TBs, how many times did they attempt, how many did they complete, and so it gives you a good indication of how they've been performing. So somebody who is brand new, like Connor and Ulgruk, would have zeros. That makes sense. Somebody who's still newer, these guys down here, they would have a lot less attempts to be trying. So the biggest concern is when we see things like this, like both of these. 1 out of 7, that's pretty bad. 1 out of 8, that's pretty terrible. So we need to improve those performances because they should not be that low. Now, I will say, take what you see here with a grain of salt. I don't 100% necessarily trust this bot to be perfectly accurate. It is possible that it's not going to be perfectly accurate. And so I would not just go yelling at a guildmate or somebody, hey, why do you suck at this mission? I would particularly message them and say, hey, looks like you've been struggling. How can we help? What's going wrong? We need this to improve. So, because ultimately, somebody who is just getting 1 out of 8 or 1 out of 7 and isn't really trying on these missions, that's free rewards, that's free stuff that can be used by every single person in this guild that is just being wasted by them not putting in any effort. And we've seen in the past, despite it being a very low chance, we've almost not opened a planet before because of these kinds of things. So it is very important to actually take these missions seriously and to give your best effort. Okay, now, I think this video has been going for a long time. I was hoping to be under an hour. We are just now over an hour. But there's a lot to TB. It's an event that takes place over 6 days, has a lot of stuff that happens. There is a lot that goes on, and there's a lot that needs to be covered. So it's not easy or quick to necessarily just work through. But finally, I want to hop over to some resources. We're going to reload that. And then once we've kind of talked through some of those resources, which should be pretty quick, we can then kind of chat about the future of our guild and kind of what we're thinking. So some of these external resources, other things that I've used to help me plan, they've been very helpful. A lot of them are found linked in our Discord. I'm going to link them in the description of this video as well. If you've never seen some of these sites, I highly recommend going to check them out because they are very useful. The Rise of the Empire GitHub, I believe this is put on by Bit Dynasty, but I might be okay. Jetcoast, yeah, it is by Bit Dynasty, who helped contribute to that 6sig. So thanks to all these wonderful people who help make this site go. This site is so useful because one of the biggest issues with TB, when we're not in TB, you cannot view the stuff in it. You can't just go hop in game and go look at something. You have to view it through external sources. So between this and the wiki, those are your two best resources for figuring things out and planning things. That's what I use all the time. In fact, I didn't even have it open and I should have. SoloH4n wrote Wiki. Rise of the Empire SoloH4n Wiki. Between both of these is how I've planned so many of our TBs, because sometimes you just need to know how many points does it take to get to a certain star. On this planet, how many points is this particular battle worth, whether you get one wave or two? Which operations do you need? How much are these operations worth? That's something I wish that this website showed, but it doesn't, and that's why I hop over to the wiki, because then you can go to, say, Zone 5 and look at, okay, if we finish all the operations, it's 33 million per, so a total of nearly 200 million points. So this website is amazing. It has not been updated in a while, and that's okay in terms of recommended teams, but it does have some good starting points for what you can do. So simply you go and find the planet you want to work on. Let's say it's Castle. You can click on the mission and you can get some information on who you're going to be fighting, any modifiers that might be applied, the teams that work. Some of them even are linked to videos and so on. This is just so helpful, and especially for me, sometimes I'm a very visual person. When I'm sitting here looking at this spreadsheet and I'm trying to figure out, well, if I'm doing this planet with this planet and trying to these blocks can only go so far. Visually seeing planets does help a lot with planning out TBs. So this has a little more data and information specific, particularly, I think primarily all I use it for is operations points and how much those are worth. Otherwise, I use this quite extensively for helping me calculate. Wonderful website, awesome information, and great to use specifically when we are not in a TB week. Next, we're going to hop over to the SoloH4n ROTE auto guide. Sadly, I'm not sure if this is still being updated anymore. It used to have a little post that was up top that said it wasn't, but it might be being updated now, and if it is, that's wonderful. This is a fantastic website that I know Egnards was involved in. I wish I could see or know who the actual person who also put this on, and I might have just closed the thing that, support. Hopefully that'll say who it is. Captain Solo. Hopefully that's you. Hopefully I'm giving the right credit, but the website is amazing because it's broken down by the different sectors or the phases of all the planets. You can click on that phase, it's filtered by planet, and then when you click on whatever mission, it's got links to all the videos on YouTube that they have linked up with the different teams that are capable of beating these missions. And the best part is it'll tell you whether or not it's a consistent or reliable on auto type of mission. I am lazy when it comes to TB. I want to auto everything. So I come here and I've used this in the past to figure out what teams can easily auto regularly any missions. And I'm looking for the blues and the greens to be able to beat it. So these are fantastic quick ways to go and just get some reference material. We have this linked again in our Discord. Highly recommend just pointing people here if they're looking to explore teams that they can use. And then finally, the last one that I want to share with resources is with regards to in the Discord, the Slice of Otoh Gunga Egnard server has this section down here called the Territory Battles Library. In here, he has all the different phases, the different sectors sorted out, and then it's by planet and then by mission. It looks kind of familiar. It's almost like he was involved in helping put together that website. But this has some additional information that you may not find on that website, but it also is, sadly, some of it out of date as well, or old, and there has been better or newer things. Coming to the submission channel, you can find some really great videos posted sometimes before he has had a chance to update them to his information. And so we can find them all in here. So different ways. So for example, Malachor Phoenix mission, you can beat it with DTMG with Enoch Omi. But I guarantee you, if we went over here to Malachor and OpenCM, yeah, we're not going to find anything but Lord Vader. So, hey, Lord Vader's in there. There is some stuff, but sometimes you got to do a little more digging if you want to find certain videos. So this is just a great spot to come find very interesting, cool niche ways. You can also come over here to the help corner and ask questions. They are some lovely folks that will absolutely help you. And then finally, the last piece of advice I have is utilizing the different bots servers. So if you want to go and figure out more about C3PO bot, go to the C3PO bot server. Actually go to their server, and you can generally find help or feedback or other information. Particularly, the one I use the most is Hotutils. I will come to the Hotutils server and get additional information, particularly if something is going on. Then you will see bot coming back online, still like you get the information of what's going on. So if the bot isn't working for you, come check here. It's probably because it's down. They're probably working on it, but that's where you would come to find that out. Another thing, this TB summary and this TB advanced, this looks familiar because this is where the TB commands bot comes from. So if you want to learn how to do and set up these different things, then this is where you get additional information about how to run the TB commands bot. You'll notice here, I mentioned earlier about trying to change the channel. This is how you would do it. You would just set the channel TB status to true in whatever channel you wanted it to post to, and that's how you can change where it actually will spit out the bot. But this is just a little bit more additional information. We've kind of covered over all of it. But if you forget or you need help, this is where you can get additional information, as well as just learn more of what all Hotbot can do. So that is everything for TB and all of my kind of information I have for you to share. The kind of only thing I have left to kind of share with you is kind of what Andra and I had been drawing up as a plan for a possible future. So if you are not from our guild or you're not interested in this part, thank you for watching to this point or tuning into any of the previous information. But unless you're really interested in what our guild's doing, it's not going to be really applicable to you. Basically, the current plan we have is on hold until we can get this next era information dropped. So within the coming weeks, we're expecting, obviously, for the next era to drop some information. And if it contains raid information, with this guild, we have always prioritized raid over the TB. The raid rewards are just far better. We need to make sure that we stay focused on what is most important one at a time. The TB rewards are good, but they are not better than the raid. So until then, we've asked everyone to prioritize working on improving special missions. For example, just an easy one, we just got a lot of LSTs from the Cassian event. If you dropped 2 of those LSTs on Kira and Young Han and you were a proud owner of Ray Shadow Legends, then you should be able to pretty much auto this mission and help the guild earn rewards. So very easy, it doesn't take a lot, but that's kind of where we're at. So currently we're at 41 stars. We're able to completely fill up Vandor, which means we now need to go to a new planet. Once you've filled up and maxed out the planet, the only answer is another planet. So if the next update contains raid information, obviously TB is just going to take a back seat until we get through the raid and we figure out how to do that. If there is no TB or raid information in that update, then my suggestion would be to go hard on pushing for future investment into TB. Sadly, that by hard, I mean it's going to be tough and there's going to be a lot of investment needed. The key that's going to need to happen is we are going to have to start either working towards Malachor or Ring of Khafreen, with realistically the end goal being Death Star or Scarif. Because what we have found is that, and this is easiest to show here on the Swoga Wiki, notice how many points a operation is for on Sector 5 versus Sector 6. It goes up tremendously. 500,000 points just from operations alone in the TB operations, when if you get 500,000 points just for completing all of these operations, and 1 star is 500,000 points, guess what? You basically get 1 star just for finishing operations. So the thought process, or what the goal is going to be, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't showing the Relic 9 planet, but yeah, up here in Scarif, it's 500,000 points just to get to 1 star. So what the thought process is, and if I go to our officer chat, then we can come back up. I knew I should have found this earlier. Let's see. In officer planning from oh, come on. Why is it not letting me filter again? All right. I don't know why this hates me. Oh, it's likely because I'm in streamer mode and it's protecting, yeah, it's protecting the name. Okay, well, it's protecting the name, yet it's showing all the names. Gotta love it. Let's see here. Gonna have to manually scroll through all of our nonsense chatting, because this was posted a while back and I thought I could just jump to it. Okay, so this was a example found by Andra of a plan that another guild has ran. So you can see it's dark side, mixed light side, and then you see right here the zeros are the bonus planets that they add in. So now one of the keys is on their phase 4 they're able to get 9 stars. We currently can only get 6. So the biggest step or push that we will need to have happen is that around 675 million we should be able to get to this 9 stars here, and then that would enable us to start following this path. But you'll notice this 1-1. So normally a big rule of thumb that I have found within TB planning has been never sacrifice and go less stars like this and try to recover it later. The answer is you can't. Because if you notice, the jump here is roughly 80 million to get to that third star, whereas the jump here is 109 million. So the increase of gap between stars only gets larger. If you didn't have enough GP to do it in zone 2, why would you suddenly have enough GP to do it in zone 5? That doesn't make sense. I know the theory is that you could save up, you'll be building more, that you're preloading. You're not. You will fall behind. You will always be behind. So the weird thing with this plan is that it takes advantage of purposefully only getting 1 star on this Sector 5 planet and then getting 1 more star on the Sector 6 planet. The reason it works is because of the operations being so valuable up here. If you finish all of these operations, you only need to get less, like 25 million points to get that first star, compared to you need nearly 300 million points to get the second star here on this planet. So which is easier to do? 300 million here from operations and deployment, or I'm sorry, from combat missions and deployment, or is it easier to get 20 million from that? So, and the nice part is over time, you would slowly start working towards this next star as you grow, but in the meantime, you're getting the next easy star on the final planet. So that means either dark side or light side, we need to start looking at which path would make the most sense for us to try to 1 star and then 1 star. Now, Andrew and I have looked at this. We have not gone super extensive, but we've done some good talking and some good looking into it. Light side, I believe, if I recall correctly, is our closest in terms of operations, though all of them are very similar in the total number of operations we need. So that doesn't matter too much. But what we found is we think we would get the most extra points from the combat missions of the fleets. With our new additions of our turtle ship and our B1 and other things, we know that specifically on Ring of Khafreen, you can actually beat this mission with the Home 1. You don't need profundity, so you could, those people who don't have profundity could still get and provide extra 1.4 million points to help us grow this even faster. And the nice part is there's a ship mission there, and there's a ship mission on Scarif. That one does require profundity, though. Compare that to the dark side, where there is no fleet mission, and then there is on Death Star, but we don't know anything about this one. So we know that these are doable, and this is why this is kind of our plan right now. So if we don't get any TB information, the plan was we start pushing hard to get operations on Ring of Khafreen done, and then once that's done, all the operations on Scarif. This means we don't get to do it over 2 days. That means every single operation we see listed here that is still needed to be filled would need actually to be filled one at a time. We can't do it, sadly, over multiple phases. But as you see, that is a lot of orange, and that is a lot of orange. If my calculations are correct from what I remember, it was roughly like 80 operations that we need to fill, which is a lot. That is not fun to do. And it's going to take a huge lift by the guild to get through it. But realistically, that's our only way, from my view and Andrew's view, to set ourselves up for future growth until, like I said earlier, we can start to actually execute by getting 9 stars across on day 4. Until then, this 1-1 is our only way of growth. Then once we can start executing the 9 stars, you can add another planet over here to increase our growth even more so. So for now, that's kind of where we land. That's the expectations or the future. If you go back to this message from March 23rd, this is exactly where Andrew and I were kind of chatting about that, about what we wanted to do and how we see the future. So if you want to go read that and get yourself some idea on kind of how we see it. But again, that was how I saw it, and that's how he and I were building it. This is now yours to run. By that point, I am going to be completely out of the picture. It's going to be all on you guys to make the choices that you guys want to see done. So I hope that this video, I know it's very long. Again, it's going to be time stamped. Watch it in segments and watch it how or when it makes sense to for what you need to see for what you're trying to look up or learn about. But hopefully this has been a very, very holistic view, very detailed with a lot of information that can help and will be valuable to you to reference back to in the future. That's all I've got for you guys. I know that you will succeed and be awesome TB officers and continue to take us to the future and keep us growing. So I can't wait to see where you take us and what all you do with the guild. So I won't be going anywhere anytime soon. I will still be around always. If you have questions or need anything, just let me know and I'll be happy to help. Thanks, guys, and best of luck to you.